This is Jake Edwards, and you are listening to Steele Some Time.
Welcome on in to Steele Some Time, Tuesday, September 8th. My goodness, how did we get so far into September already? Scott Stewart, Kelsey Zeno, Matt Calvo. Welcome to the show, everyone. Scott Stu, how was your Labor Day, my guy?
Yeah, fantastic. Nice little 3-day weekend. No shortage of championship action. I feel like we just say the same thing every time we hop on. It's like, oh, we're already in mid-September. That will only continue for the rest of time as far as I'm concerned. But no, it was incredible. Got out to St. Pete Pier, had a little barbecue yesterday, and did Labor Day right, it felt like. How about you?
Yeah, it was good. I hung by the pool all day on Sunday, so I got burned, did everything right. Saturday, I went to a daytime birthday party and experienced like one of the cooler things that I think should happen at every adult party. They bought a giant blow up slip and slide for this party. So it's like obviously, like a bunch of like 20, 30-year-olds like celebrating a birthday, but instead it's like flip cup and slip and slide. And I was like, yes. This is what I'm talking about. And then you're done by like 8 p.m. It's perfect.
You're done by 8 p.m. I'm done by 5 p.m. If you put me in a slip and slide for 3 hours outside, I'm done, man. I'm taking a nap until Monday afternoon at that point.
I am not kidding. I was sore the next day. I was like, this is pathetic.
Like, why am I so sore? And then you just replay the memories of Saturday and you just realize I was just slipping and sliding all day,
Kelsey, you'll realize the older you get why those things don't happen at adult parties more often.
Oh, well, that's also very true.
That's fair. Point. That's fair. But yeah, it was a nice one. And I can't believe it's still so hot in September. I'm very much over it. But what I thought was so funny is on Saturday, there was like a heat advisory over in Florida. It was like so stinking hot. And then I saw yesterday a bunch of my friends who live over in Denver were posting that they were like suddenly about to be under a winter weather advisory 2 days after they had hit like 101 degrees. And I was like, it had really dropped to like, I just checked it. It's like 35 degrees in Denver right now.
Yeah, it's like straight hoodie weather in the Midwest. One of my friends in Louisville was like, hey, like, do you mind if I pop down to Tampa? Like, it's getting a little cold up here. And I was like, well, I can promise you it was a heat index of 99 on Sunday. So, like, you're welcome to come down anytime. Summer is not ending soon.
No shortage of heat in the Tampa Bay region. I'll tell you that right now.
A lot of fire going on.
I love it. Well, I'm glad you guys enjoyed your Labor Day weekend, but we had plenty to talk about from week 11. First, before we get in there, I have to throw some positive news your guys' way because it's positive story of the week time, and this has quickly become my favorite addition to the podcast because what I have found over this past weekend especially is that everyone just needs to be, just think of the positives in the world. Just like, and I'll tell you this one, Scott, is really, really, really cool. So they just released this past week that this Ecuadorian couple broke the record as the world's oldest married couple. Scott, how old do you think each couple is? Each person in the couple is?
I'm going to go triple digits for sure. Yeah.
Okay.
I got to be triple digits. I'm going to go let's be conservative though. I'll go like 103 apiece, feels like a good number.
Okay. The husband is 110 years old and the wife is 104.
That's incredible. How long have they been married?
I think they said here they got married in 1941.
Oh my goodness. Yeah.
So yeah.
I don't know about you. I'm not trying to stay on this planet that long. So shout out to both of them for just keeping it going.
So like that's positive news in itself, but I feel like the next level to that positive news is they're both like in incredibly good health and super lucid, and like their only complaint right now is they just like miss going to parties with their friends because of the pandemic. And I'm like, same.
I love that's an incredible answer. I can just picture them just like, do I really need this mask right now? Like I'm 110, dog.
Right.
I'm not trying to do this right now.
I'm not going to lie. I was kind of hoping that they just got married like within the last couple of years or something.
Just to set the record.
Yeah.
That would have been. You guys, their ages combined are like just short of 215 years. That's crazy. So yeah, new world record holders. They're obviously, retired and living the dream over in Ecuador. But I just thought that was like such a feel-good love story.
That's incredible. I also learned that this weekend there was an attempt at a Guinness Book of World Record while we're talking about it.
Ooh, hit me.
The longest hot dog toss to be caught in a bun. And I sounded like a very Labor Day activity. Someone was like launching, I think it was like over 50 feet. Someone just like launching this hot dog and just catching it in the bun. It's not on TikTok this morning, so it could be entirely wrong. TikTok, not my platform of choice, but like kind of slowly getting there. But I was just like, what an American thing to do on Labor Day is like, I'm just going to toss this hot dog to you, and we're just going to call Guinness and see if we can set a world record right now.
I mean, it's kind of like a glove. Like, think of it like a baseball glove,
Oh, it landed perfectly, too. I was like, somebody better be eating that hot dog after this. If not, like, send it your boy's way.
We got to get you on TikTok. This is not okay.
I know. It's been an interesting pandemic so far. I'll put it that way.
Oh, God. We'll keep rolling right with it. Week 11. Thank you for your feel-good story as well, Scott. I double dose there. Listen, San Antonio FC somehow still remains unbeaten. They are getting the job done. Obviously, still the lone wolf with the 0 on their line there. I think the biggest part of it is they still continue to look so impressive in everything they do, Scott. And I think like a part of me wonders if we're going to be able to see that form continue, and it makes me want to think about that question that we threw out last year with Phoenix, and it's like, do they almost want to kind of drop that before the playoff starts so you don't have that on their shoulders? If you're San Antonio FC, do you think that might, obviously you're not going to want to lose on purpose, but is that something that you think they might be thinking about, or is it just not even in the radar?
Yeah, I think it's a little bit different than Phoenix, because Phoenix was just winning, right? Like Phoenix was just win after win after win after win. So like Phoenix was just like, we didn't even really want to drop points. Like San Antonio obviously beating RGV. They're unbeaten right now, which is fantastic. And I do think that there's validity in the argument of like, hey, if you drop points or if you lose, it's not the worst thing in the world, right? They know how talented they are. But if I'm in that locker room, I'm like, I think the coolest thing about them is they seem like a team who goes into every Friday, Saturday, Sunday night and just says, tonight only. We don't care about next Wednesday. We don't care about next weekend. Like, whatever we can get out of tonight is what we're going to focus on. And, like, we saw that against RGV. Luis Solignac scores with, like, one of the fastest goals in championship history. They're, like, 3-1 up inside 22 minutes. Mm-hmm. RGV gets one back near the hour mark, and it's like, if you're San Antonio – they didn't even look like they were like panicking or worried that like RGV was going to find an equalizer and make it 3-3. Like they were just like, listen, we're focused on being exactly who we need to be right now in this moment. If that's your mentality, you're a lot more susceptible to, or a lot less susceptible, I should say, to dropping points and getting losses and stuff like that, because you're focused on the task at hand. I think that's one incredible thing about Alan Marcina that he's really instilled in that side that might have just been a little bit different from what they're used to, is focus on these 90 minutes, focus on these 3 blocks of 30, get through them, figure out what you need to do to get the job done. I think if they lose, it's not the worst thing in the world. I don't think it derails them by any means, but like right now, there are no indications that this team is any less weak mentally than any other team in the league right now.
They also just added Jordan Peruzza from TSC2, who scored 15 goals last year in League One. Don't sleep on that acquisition.
Another weapon in the arsenal. And we've seen League One products translate very well at the championship level so far. So it's like they continue to roll. They're adding the right pieces. As long as that squad dynamic stays as strong as it has been, then they are in pole position right now to be one of the front runners for the entire league, not just the West.
Well, and they're going to be tested this week, Scott. So it'll be interesting to see what comes out of week 12 with San Antonio, because they're going to be meeting El Paso, who also just happens to be having a heck of run of form right now. They finally broke through with a 3-2 win over New Mexico this weekend. And listen, they are right on New Mexico's tail now. So they got a game in hand, but 18 points right under New Mexico's 20. They are gunning for that first place spot in Group C, and right now it's hard to count out El Paso.
Absolutely, 100%. And this is like another one of those Copa Tejas things, which does seem to mean more to these teams, and so that's an added element of it as well. But El Paso was incredible, right? Like Dylan Mayer is coming to the rescue, finding a late winner. It's stuff like that, and El Paso feels like a very big momentum squad, right? Like when they're building momentum, they're scary. It is like a train rolling, truly. They may be slow to start, but once they are going, I know I took that right out of you. But once they're going, they're going to be difficult to stop. And this was a big momentum boost for them. I think that they will feel that it is almost their rite of passage if they beat San Antonio to like, hey, this is what is truly going to kickstart us into a big postseason run. But like, this is why I slept on El Paso going into the playoffs last year, and they end up in the Western Conference semifinal. It's just like for them, or the Western Conference final, for them, it was just like once they got going, they were really, really keen on like, hey, we are the train that you have to stop. The question then becomes for San Antonio right back is like, do they even, with all due respect, do they even care how El Paso views El Paso? Because how San Antonio views El Paso is much, much different.
Oh, that one's going to be a good one. I cannot wait. And, you know, there's another club that's riding a train right now, and that's Louisville City FC, Scott. And it has officially happened. Louisville City's overtaken Indy 11 for that top spot in Group E. They've won their second LIPA FC meeting of the year. I mean, don't forget, just 2 weeks ago, we're talking about a club that was in the third place spot in their group. They were like, what, 6 points are back at that point? Here they are now, 20 points, the top of Group E. What we have seen from this group over the last, 5-6 weeks is just incredible. And you even said it last week that we didn't know what was going to happen after August. We know Louisville City loves August, but it's September now. What are they going to produce in this month? Well, they produced a big win over Indy this past week, that number one spot. So, Scott, are you going to buy or sell that Louisville can maintain this momentum through the postseason?
Yeah, this, I think it maybe, well, I don't know. I don't want to say like it's too easy to answer because there are valid questions. I mean, I think we all kind of thought going back to Louisville last year that they were going to run away with it against Monarchs. And that final obviously went a lot differently and shows the power of one 90-minute game sort of deciding the season. But this is a Louisville team that is really rolling right now. And they put in one of the performances of the season against Indy 11. And Indy, we'll talk about Indy, I'm sure, in a weird spot right now, but like Louisville did everything they needed to do that game. They scored first. They maintained the pressure. They hardly allowed Tyler Pasher to create. Indy didn't look like they had a chance at the game until like when Andrew Carlton came on near the 70th minute. And by then, Louisville, like Antoine Hopino, will have nightmares about the sitter that he missed right in front of goal to make it 4-1. I think it could have been 4-2. I think 3-1 is fair. I just don't think that Indy looked like they came to play that night, and Louisville continues to really, really not just show up, but like bring the hammer down on some of these teams. So I'll buy Louisville for sure being able to carry this into the postseason. Whether or not they finish first in Group E, again, difficult to tell because it's so tight up there right now, but like if the last month has been any indication of anything, it's that Louisville has put their right foot forward, and who's to say that they won't continue to do that all the way through October and November?
You can almost always guarantee that Louisville City FC is going to rise to the occasion. And we're seeing that here in the last 6 weeks. So for me, I'm still up in the air. I don't know if we're going to be able to see that continue through the end of October. There's just too much time, and there's too many games going on to get a clear sense of that, in my opinion. But I'm going to go one further here, Scott, because since August began, Indy 11 has won only one game. Okay? A complete shift in gears for one of the heavy favorites to make a postseason run in 2020. So are you going to buy or sell Indy 11 missing the postseason altogether?
That's good. That's good, Kels. That's an on-the-spot question right there. My gut would say I'm going to sell it because my gut wants to believe that Indy has the talent and has the ability to propel themselves through. But looking at their schedule, I mean, they've got to play St. Louis twice. They still have to play Louisville one more time. They have to play SKC, and SKC too has done the ultimate job of being the spoiler so far. When SKC 2 went to Louisville and beat them, I was like, all right, no one saw that coming. And then literally the next week they go to Indy and they beat them. So it's Indy needs to do basically a reverse Louisville, if you will, and get it together fast, real fast, because I feel like they sort of get to this point in the season. And I don't think it's a Martin Rennie specific thing. I don't even really think it's a players thing. I don't know where the answer lies, but it's they get to this point in the season and they peak and then they plateau. And then we just slowly start to see them go back down the mountain. And it's they need to start ascending again. And I'm sure they are more aware of that than anybody. But St. Louis, the ball's in their court. If St. Louis gets 4 points from their 2 games against Indy and Indy doesn't beat Louisville again, all of a sudden you are looking at one of the most talented teams in the East and one of the favorites in the East not even making it to mid-October. And that's big. So I'm going to buy the possibility of Indy missing the playoffs for sure. I don't want to just sell them and ship them entirely because they are who they are and they're a great team and they are so stacked. But if August, that stat alone is any indication, then yeah, their trajectory is one that means that their season ends the first weekend of October.
Scott, do you think that's what is a part of what makes this season so unique? The fact that we're in the midst of this group play and the playoff clinchings, playoff scenarios are so different than we've ever seen before, that the group that you are placed in could honestly, truly make or break you at this point.
Easy, because it's you no longer are just taking the top 8-10 teams in the East, right? The 7 through 10 have to do the play-in round, and that's great. But Indy's not afforded that opportunity. Indy can't finish third in the East and be hey, we're still third in the East. We're hosting the 6th seed at this point. No, if you're third in your group, you're gone. It's done. It's goodbye. We now have to wait until next February to play even a preseason game. So it's there's a lot going on for them right now. And that's why I feel this period in time, sort of how we said the screws are turning on Louisville, it's heating up, the kettle's burning right now. The screws are really, really tightening on Indy 11 season. And one of two things happens. They bolt those down securely or they pop off and the door's off the hinge. And then you're looking at what do we have to do this next offseason to go from Eastern Conference final appearance nearly literally 90 minutes, literally
seconds.
Yes, seconds away from a USL Championship final appearance to we're out of the playoffs. We're not even in the picture anymore. And that's an answer that only lies in months and months of preparation. But Indy doesn't want those months of preparation. Indy wants 2.5 months of offseason before they kick a ball again. They may very well get 3.5 months.
Group play is making all the difference in 2020, and we're seeing it right now. And it's really affecting another team that would have been in the Eastern Conference normally, and that's Charlotte Independence. Because we're seeing a Charlotte club that we haven't seen in a really long time. And Brandon Miller, for one, is absolutely killing it. He's leading the league right now with 48 saves, all right? And then it seems like on the other end, you have almost out of nowhere, Dane Kelly has just quickly inserted himself into the Golden Boot picture. Okay, so you have the guy in Dane Kelly who was right behind Tyler Pasher with 8 goals. He's right in that race. He obviously knows all about it. I mean, he has the 2017 Golden Boot with 18 goals for I believe. So he moved around quite a bit after that 2017 season where he just absolutely, lit the league on fire. Never really seemed to find that mojo in that click again, Here he is with Charlotte, and it seems like he's truly found now. That offensive production in Charlotte is fantastic right now. Scott, would you buy or sell that this is the best form we've seen out of Dane Kelly?
Ooh. Nicholas Murray will eviscerate me.
Oh, no.
He will eviscerate me if I get this wrong. I don't know if it's the best form we've seen out of Dane because he's such a goal getter and he's been relatively consistent. Like, I think his time in Indy was disappointing for both sides. Like, I think he would have wanted to score more. Indy obviously wanted to be a little bit more productive. But, like, right now, I think given the stage he's at in his career, this may be the most impressive Dane Kelly we've seen. So I don't know if this is, like, best form Dane Kelly, but what he's doing for that Charlotte side that is lacking Jorge Herrera, right? Like, lost a couple key pieces. Certainly, in my mind, I'll be very right to admit, was nowhere near the playoff picture when Group G came out. I said Charlotte may finish last, right? They might be lucky to be on par with Memphis. I was saying Birmingham and North Carolina, hands down. And it's not over for North Carolina. They are 8 points back with 2 games in hand. But, like, even mathematically right now, Charlotte has put themselves in an incredible position so far. And just knowing how, like, grit – yeah. And just knowing how grit and grind Group G is just in general, like, all hats off to not just Dane, not just Brandon, but, like, that team has put themselves together. Over the last month, they have been one of the, like, faces of the Eastern Conference in terms of, like these guys were invited to the party and they just showed up, you know, and they just showed up, but they showed up the right way. And, like, it's been encouraging to see their run of form just collectively.
I think you really finagled your way around that question, Scott. But I will allow you to throw in impressive over best form because I do agree. I think when you put all of the scenarios into place for Dane Kelly and you're talking about the hiatus and all the time off and then now the period of time that we've been on and what he's been able to produce in each game, there's no question that this has to be the most impressive that we've seen Dane Kelly and could very, very well see him on top of the Golden Boot chart once again come October.
It's crazy because, like, you look at the other names in that Golden Boot race and you're literally talking about people who helped run this league, right? Like Ty Pass, Peter Flemings, and now it's like we got Dane Kelly out here, like, doing what Dane Kelly does best. I'm rooting for it. I'm all here for Dane Kelly Golden Boot 2020.
You heard it here first, Dane. You got a big old fan in Scott Stew.
Hey, we tried last year, and then I called him an old man on the podcast, and then we were like, he's not even old, Scott. Like, that was just, like, unnecessary. So, Dane, I'm back on your side, man. If you have me, I'm on your team.
All right, there you have it. Week 11. We're going to take a quick break, you guys, but when we come back, we're going to be joined by John Arnold. So John's a writer and past correspondent with Goal.com. So he's primarily focused on CONCACAF soccer now, and he produces a newsletter called Getting CONCACAF, apostrophe D, and is highly knowledgeable in American and Mexican soccer. So stick around. We're going to be right back with John after the break. We're back on into Steele Some Time. We're joined by John Arnold now. John, thanks for stopping by the pod today.
My pleasure.
We're excited to have you, but first, we have to talk about your newsletter, Getting CONCACAF, apostrophe D. I feel like I need to emphasize that. What prompted your interest into getting into a project like that?
Well, I've been telling stories from CONCACAF for a long time. You know, I worked as the Mexico correspondent and CONCACAF correspondent at Goal for about 6 years. And just wanted to dig in even more of that. You know, I think a lot of these stories are worth telling. Some of the things that I've been able to put out already on the newsletter are, to me, some of the most fascinating things that I've experienced covering the game, I guess, for almost a decade now. That makes me sound really old, and maybe I am. But, you know, I think that those stories are worth telling, but they're not sexy in some ways. Big media outlets aren't paying thousands of dollars for these stories, even though to me they maybe are worth that much or as worth as much as some of the stories that we hear over and over again. Listen, I am interested in if Messi goes or stays from Barcelona. I am interested in Manchester United and Arsenal. Like, that is fascinating to me, but so is what's happening around the corner. I think that's something that a lot of USL fans obviously can it resonates with a USL fan because it's your local soccer, it's your neighborhood soccer. Sometimes what I get into is even more obscure or way more obscure than what's going on here in USL. But I think those stories are important to tell. So I always say, if you get the joke in the title of the newsletter, then the newsletter is for you. So, I just try and cover the entire region. And it's something where I've been wanting to tell these stories for a long time. And and going independent in a lot of ways seem to be the way to get that done.
I mean, you have a lot to cover as well. By no means is it an easy task. CONCACAF soccer's been growing in both name and respect around the globe as that level of play really continues to increase. But at this point, what's your overall perception of the region soccer as it stands right now?
Yeah, I would say it's a moment of growth. I definitely think that it's getting bigger, that it's getting more recognized, and that CONCACAF itself, as much as we like to bag on it, the name is sort of bagging on CONCACAF in a way. But as much as we like to do that, I do think that things like the CONCACAF Nations League are really growing soccer in the region. I think that Mexico and US fans specifically can sort of poo-poo CONCACAF and say, well, we're too good for this. Why do we have to play the Gold Cup? But until the rest of the region improves, they won't have better games, essentially. Those Gold Cup games that are seen as sort of walkovers will continue to be walkovers if these teams aren't playing regularly. So the Nations League, I think, has been a huge key to sort of growing things in the region. I think that the region is also becoming a better exporter of players. If that's European attitude shifting, if that's technology increasing the ease of scouting a place like Jamaica or Trinidad and Tobago or the Central American countries, I think it maybe is a confluence of those things, but you're starting to see players from CONCACAF excel in stronger leagues, both at the top, and Alphonso Davies, obviously a USL alumnus who goes and wins the Champions League with Bayern Munich, but also places, that are smaller, but still quality leagues, places like Serbia, places like, some of the lower leagues or a top division in Norway, Finland. Those places are starting to get talent from CONCACAF, and that was happening in the past, but not at the pace that we're seeing it now. So I think globally, the perception of CONCACAF is probably that it's still a pretty weak region compared to Europe, compared to South America. And I think that perception is fair, but ideally the steps that CONCACAF is taking to grow are being recognized, and I think they are.
It's funny that you mentioned Jamaica because you have players who are really shining. I mean, in the CONCACAF region and the USL. I mean, Speedy Williams is one guy that definitely comes to mind. With Jamaica, you've got the Jerome for Haiti, obviously. I mean, those are just a few examples, really.
No, absolutely. I think that the USL has provided a very nice landing spot for a lot of those players who maybe previously would have been playing in their top local division, but were too good for that. USL is a place where they can get a higher level of competition, and not with Jamaica, but with some of the other smaller countries in the CONCACAF region. You're talking about places where players have a difficult time playing the game full time, first of all, knowing that their contracts will be paid, knowing that they're going to be able to feed their families from what they get from football. And USL has no problems with that. It's a place where they want to be. It's a place where they enjoy the lifestyle. So I think that you see, and diet too, like that's something that I think people don't realize is there are places, there are stories that cover where guys work as fishermen. Well, it's very difficult to be a fisherman, to go out on the boat, to catch fish, and also eat healthy and then train and be at the top level. If you're able to have football as your job, you can focus on diet, you can focus on some of the things in addition to finishing drills, in addition to conditioning, that really make you a top level player. And I think that USL specifically, and especially the championship, has allowed players to do that. Like I said, that's a bit extreme. Some of it's just the quality of competition. You look at a guy like Speedy Williams, the other Jamaican guys, like the Phoenix duo, Junior Flemings and Gavin Lambert. You start to see those guys. Those guys would be professional footballers even if the USL didn't exist. But I think you see it as a really good landing spot in a place where guys can get quality competition.
The USL boasted its largest representation in the CONCACAF Gold Cup last year with, I believe, over 25 players across the championship and League One who were selected to represent their national teams, which is awesome. Do you think there's more opportunity in the leagues like Championship and League One that will kind of allow for that number to grow?
I think so. I think that you see kind of a combined growth, right? We're talking about the growth of CONCACAF, but you could also point to the growth of USL and sort of coming into so many markets in the US where there is a project, an owner that wants football to develop locally. And sure, they're going to invest in the local players and try and get young, talented players in the market to come through that academy. But especially right now, as those systems are just being put into place, you still need talented players. And so what do? You can look around the CONCACAF region and see some of these players. And listen, I mentioned, some of these guys are playing in leagues in Europe that are maybe not the top level, but maybe a mid-tier. But you might rather be, if you're Jamaican or if you're from Trinidad and Tobago or if you're from El Salvador, you might rather be in a place like Las Vegas or Memphis than to be in Bratislava. It's an easier flight home. You probably have maybe a local community of immigrants, depending on the city and that sort of thing. So I think it's a real ideal destination as you see CONCACAF continue to grow and, again, have it easier to scout those players because of the increased availability of film, tournaments like the Gold Cup and the Nations League. You also see those players saying, this is actually a place where I would like to be. This is a place where I can make good money. The checks are going to clear and I can be closer to my family. I think it's in some ways a win-win for everyone. So I don't know why that would decrease, right? I think it's only going to keep being on the up.
Which is awesome. That's so exciting. I mean, you're only going up from here, with more CONCACAF World Cup qualifying set to continue then in March of next year. Are there any players you think in the USL or even in the region that you're keeping an eye on to kind of propel their national team forward?
Yeah, I think it's interesting because some of the guys we've talked about, a Speedy Williams, a Junior Flemings, there's stiff competition, right? If you're trying to get a wing position on Jamaica, you have to get past Leon Bailey, who's excelling in the Bundesliga. You have to get past, players who are at clubs like Fulham. That's a difficult task. Not to say it can't be done, but, it is going to be tough. I think when you look at some of the other players, like a Junior Burgos for Las Vegas Lights, he could be a critical piece to give some experience to an El Salvador team that has pretty high hopes. But I also look at like some of the clubs, the national teams flying under the radar. You look like a Grenada with AJ Patterson from the Charleston Battery. I think he's a guy who, he's not the captain of the team. He's not the most important piece, but it's difficult to find good fullbacks in this region. He's had good success playing a little bit more forward as well, finding goals. So, I look at players like that as players who could potentially be quite influential. And then you look at some of the teams who I think are going to struggle in qualification, to be honest, but still need a boost, still want to get some sort of momentum ahead of the CONCACAF Nations League. Looking at like a Puerto Rico where Devin Vega, I think, is a familiar name to USL fans. He's been around at a couple different clubs. He's a guy who, if he comes in regularly for that team, you could see him being a leader in the future. Billy Forbes, another example of Turks and Caicos. That's been a partnership that's existed for a long time. But those kind of guys provide that experience that I think is vital in qualification, and not just these 4 games that we hope to see in March, crossing our fingers that the COVID doesn't continue to postpone things. But not only in March, but also going forward, that these nations can get out of the category that I'm kind of maybe unfairly putting them in right now as honestly nations that have no chance to qualify for the World Cup. So I think that's a place where these USL players can shine. And again, that base that allows them to be everyday, week in, week out professionals competing for a spot, trying to reach their pinnacle as athletes, I think really does provide them the opportunity to be leaders in the future.
Well, and getting really quality minutes too, and playing against a high level of competition, which is super crucial. You made a comment that actually is really interesting to me. Why do you think that it's so difficult to find a deep back line here in this region? Why is that?
It's a question, but even at the upper ranks, right? Mexico, the United States, you look at their right back and left back, and it's like, it's not amazing. And I've always wondered, like, what is happening that's allowing the European players and Brazilian players, traditionally have been, best right back, best left back. Why are they so much better at us? I think a lot of it does come down to coaching. And I think a lot of it comes down to, we've sort of done the opposite with Alphonso Davies, but a lot of times if you're a fast player who can play both ways, a coach will say, great, you're a winger. I need that attacking production, and especially in the CONCACAF region where I think goals can be difficult to come by. We also don't have a ton of number 9s that get produced, these top forwards. So I think you can say, well, we need goals, we need you to play wing, and then those are the skills that are fine-tuned rather than defending. So I would put it down to that. I would say coaching and sort of a lack of wide options often mean that our fullbacks in this region are not up to snuff compared to some of the others. But I do think that's another thing where you can see it changing. Davies obviously on top, as maybe one of the best, if not the best left back in the world. But I think other players in the region starting to fill those roles as well, which should be exciting. But I think my hunch is that it comes down to coaching and necessity.
Makes sense. Alphonso Davies, not a bad pinnacle there.
Oh, and look, if a kid says, I want to be the next Davies now, I want to learn how to defend, then I think a coach is going to say, great, I want those attributes, right? I don't think it's that coaches in the past have said, no, we don't want to defend. I think it's just, a lot of times you say, you're fast, you can play on the ball, you pass well, great, we'll put you into the attack. And sometimes that's necessary, right? But maybe if Davies is kind of the role model, which I definitely think he will be, maybe we see a new crop of fullbacks coming up in 5, 10, 15 years in CONCACAF, the Davies effect.
Oh my gosh, I love that. Can we coin that?
Absolutely. If we put it out now, then we can trademark it. So I'm going to send it to myself in a letter. That's how trademark works, right?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
We'll
Perfect.
put it
You're going to make a lot of money.
All right, John, I really appreciate all of the insight. This is all so valuable and honestly just a lot of information I think that people can really go in and find in CONCACAF''D. And I'll definitely be a new subscriber as well as hopefully many of the listeners here on the pod today. But knowledge is unparalleled. Appreciate you taking the time to chat with Steele Some Time today.
No, my pleasure. I think those links between CONCACAF and USL are only going to continue to grow, and I hope everyone enjoys kind of watching the interplay in the future.
Absolutely. John, thanks so much. Take care.
My pleasure. See you.
Welcome back into Steele Some Time. Really appreciate John stopping by. My God, I feel like we probably could have had him on for an hour, Scott. Like, that guy is so freaking knowledgeable about the game.
And like, if you do, like, I highly recommend subscribing to Get CONCACAF. Like, I think that's an incredible newsletter, but follow him on Twitter too. He's a great Twitter follower. If you are just like interested in soccer in North America or in the CONCACAF region, like, he clearly knows what he's talking about and is a fantastic Twitter follow. So thanks, John, for coming on. Like, obviously, to have somebody of that caliber of knowledge on means a lot.
Stu with the plug. You got to love it.
I got you, John.
Okay, a really cool moment across social media this week. The Tampa Bay Rowdies actually went and shared on their social media channels. Two of their biggest all-time fans, Mary and Dieter Karnstedt, have been sitting, cheering, screaming in Section 105 for the past 8 years. Dieter actually played soccer for the German Army, which is so cool. Moved to the States, attended his first Rowdies match in 1976. So that's how long these two have been Tampa Bay Rowdy fans, and of course have been season ticket holders since 2010. So what's really, really cool is that they would come out and like greet the team at the airport. They were like the biggest fans. I think Mary even crocheted scarves for these players. So the local news outlet put a really cool piece together for the two of them because unfortunately Dieter passed away in a car accident a few weeks ago. But it's what I want to bring out of this is what head coach Neil Collins did for Mary and to honor his family, because this shows, I think, exactly what the Tampa Bay's Rowdies truly, encapsulate. So Neil Collins stopped the whole team at the flag when they were coming out of the locker room, and all of the players saluted Dieter, and they actually dedicated the game against Atlanta United to Dieter. Evan Laurel gave her his jersey. I think he was given, the captain armband from that game. And they actually told her that, at that point in time, it's COVID. So pretty much the only people able to attend games right now are friends or close friends and family. And they told her that she was family to them and that family had other privileges and she would be attending every game for the rest of the year. Scott, I like so much positivity, I think, in today's pod, but this one obviously is just so incredibly special. And I think it shows above all how important community really is to every club that is in the USL Championship. Yeah,
I definitely want to we got to shout out the Rowdies for sure, and shout out Neil Collins, who's just like a really classy individual, right? And I know that there were a lot of people who knew Dieter very well, and they've got that banner that's hanging in front of 105. And it's just it makes me very emotional as just like a soccer fan, because I just feel like this is like who we're supposed to be, right? And this is what clubs are supposed to be. And this is like why we do what we do. This is why they do what they do. Like, we all love the soccer ball going in the back of the net. We all love 90 minutes. We all love Saturday nights and flags and smoke and all that stuff. But like, an opportunity to see a club do something this special for someone who means that much to them, I think is just like blown out of the water cool. And so definitely want to say shout out to the Rowdies. And I know there are so many other clubs around this incredible league and in this incredible ecosystem that have done things similar to this in the past. But like, it's just listening to Mary talk about what this means to her. It's really, really hard not to just like get soaked up in the emotion of the moment, because it's just like that opportunity for her. It's one small gesture for Neil and the guys, right? Like it's just one, we're just going to stop at the corner flag. Here's what we're going to do to honor them. But like, that's something that sticks with Mary and her family for the rest of their lives. And that is an impact that transcends time and is just like so very cool. So at risk of like just literally like crying on this podcast on a Tuesday afternoon, we'll move on. I think it's an incredible story. Obviously, rest in peace, Dieter, an incredible fan, a lifelong. I'm sure he would consider himself to be a lifelong Rowdies guy now. And a very, very big pat on the back and a round of applause to the Rowdies for showing some love this week.
The power of sport, truly. I think that sums it up, incredible gesture by them, and appreciate the Tampa Bay community and the Rowdies for sharing that story with.
Absolutely. Very cool.
That being said, Scott, we got to get into week 12 because it starts off Tuesday evening with Austin and FC Tulsa, which it feels like we've seen this matchup quite a few times already this season, but I think now more than ever, it matters more than anything.
Yeah, 100%. And I want to shout out Austin for their Twitter game recently. Tulsa for their Twitter game recently. Although Austin, still a strong Twitter game. Not taking anything away from you. They tweeted last time they played that today fortune doesn't favor the bold, which I thought was clever. And then today they were like run it back, but make it in Austin. So I just think that it's obviously, we talk about how often this happens in the league right now, where they're just like playing each other almost back to back. Like, we'll see you next week, guys. It's just kind of a weird thing, but this is huge for Group D. Both these teams level on games played, level on points, both sitting at 14 points right now. Like, this could be a big pendulum swing for either one of these sides. And, I was bullish on Tulsa earlier this year. They've leveled out, rightly so. No one blames them for that. Austin, who I think got off to a little bit of a slow start, is sort of really finding who they are identity-wise now. And tonight's huge for the Bold. I think if they get 3 points, Tulsa then goes into the Black and Gold Derby this weekend, and they would need to do something special. And boy, if there's anything OKC would love to do, it would be to play the spoiler this weekend. So a big game for both teams tonight. And I'm excited to see who ends up coming out of it. Just like, please do not give me a 0-0 draw.
No, come on. I'm so sick of it. I
can't handle another one.
Do another draw.
Yeah, I'll put it this way. I will literally be sleeping on both of those teams because I will go to bed at halftime if I sense that a 0-0 draw is on the way. So like, that's my veiled threat of the afternoon, is like, let's see some exciting soccer tonight. But like, I hope one of the two teams takes 3 points because it has the potential to greatly impact Group D.
Of course, that one's on ESPN Plus, and you can actually catch it on Sirius XM on channel 157 if you just, feel like you'd rather listen to it. Elsewhere across the week, I want to jump into Saturday because there's quite a few games on Saturday that I think are pretty pivotal. Obviously, you've got SAC and OC on Wednesday, which is some inter group play, but I think the big one for me, I'm looking at Saturday, I think Birmingham and Charlotte's massive.
Yeah,
you've got,
100%.
Like, we're talking about the top two teams here in Group G, which we talked about it time again on this podcast, but Charlotte has a real opportunity here to make it another huge week for them. I mean, if they had even the possibility of coming away with 3 points this week, that is huge for what they're trying to do in Group G and stay, more than anything, in that top two.
Well, and you said it, like, there are a lot of games this weekend that have, like, intergroup implications, like Sacramento Reno is one of them. Obviously, Group F, Hartford and Pittsburgh. But my eyes are on Group G right now, just in terms of, like, 1 versus 2 going at each other. Because if Birmingham wins, that obviously opens the door again for North Carolina to say, okay, not all is lost. We still can continue to do this. And I'm sure they'll say that to themselves regardless. But, like, if Charlotte ends up beating Birmingham this weekend, they become one of the realest threats in the East. And like, listen, we talk about it, and that's why we love playoffs. Like, one game changes everything, right? So it's not an indication that, like, I'm not taking Charlotte to the USL Championship final if they beat Birmingham this weekend. But it is a huge sign that the progress we've seen them make over the last 5-6 weeks is very real. It's very tangible. It's right in front of us. So I'm right there with you. I think it's a huge game. Birmingham, I think, has an opportunity to put Charlotte back in their place. But you reverse those roles, and Charlotte can say the exact same thing to them. So that's going to be a really exciting game Saturday night.
A few other ones joining Charlotte and Birmingham has to be Sacramento and Reno. We see a Reno side that put up 7 goals this past week on T2. Ian Russell made such a statement when he came onto the pod, and I think what he is doing is just furthering what we're seeing out of this Reno squad is for real, and it is very dangerous. And I think this meeting between Sacramento and Reno is going to be a massive one to watch on Saturday night. Yeah,
and like Sacramento has played out of their last 5 games, they've played T2 3 times, right? And so like Timbers 2, who has lost every one of the games that they've played, that can be a little bit like of a false confidence boost for Sacramento. And Sacramento, like that game on Wednesday night, I know we didn't touch on it very much, but like Sacramento scoring late, Portland scoring late, Sacramento somehow still finding time to score again to win the game. Like, you won't have that opportunity against Reno where you're going to be able to like allow them an opportunity back in and still somehow get away with it. Now, Sacramento beat Reno in Reno back on the 12th of August, but it's been a month, and Reno has continued to really stamp their own momentum on this season. So it might be the biggest Donner Pass Derby in a while, and both teams are going to have to bring it. I'm more confident that Reno will bring it than Sacramento, but like that's why we play the games, you know?
I mean, you're talking about 3 points separating between the two sides as well. So Reno has been playing incredibly well, but now is not the time to let up because Sacramento is going to make that movement. So that one's so exciting. I can't wait to see that game on Saturday night. I think obviously the other big one, Scott's going to be El Paso and San Antonio, which we've already touched on briefly here. But El Paso's recent form combined with the absolute brilliance we've seen from San Antonio has to make this the game of the week, no?
Yeah. Oh, I think hands down, right? Yeah. Like you already said it, El Paso chasing New Mexico for the top spot, San Antonio unbeaten, sort of a convergence, if you will, of like two teams who are riding a high right now. Yeah. And I think right now I'm favoring San Antonio, but like ask me tomorrow, I might say El Paso. Ask me Thursday, I might go back to San Antonio. So like, I think this is the pick of the bunch on Saturday night for sure. A Copa Tejas game. It doesn't directly affect either one standing between each other within their respective groups, but certainly helps paint a bigger picture for the Western Conference as a whole.
Oh, for sure. Week 11's in the bag. Week 12 is coming full force. We covered all of that for you guys today, but of course, the one thing that we have to get to before today's up is shots fired. So Matt Calvo, please take us.
327.
I don't know if you guys are aware or not, but today is National Ants on a Log Day.
I don't think I had that marked in my calendar, actually.
Yeah, unaware of that one.
You weren't celebrating today, National Ants on a Log Day?
I didn't plan to.
Yeah, so the second Tuesday of September is National Ants on a Log Day, so that got me thinking, of course, favorite/best childhood snack.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Growing up, like
that.
Whether it's packed in the lunch and it's part of the school day, or like right when you get home from school.
Oh, okay.
Getting your snack on. Favorite.
I'll just say like I miss. Okay, no. We'll wait to see what both of our answers are, and then I'll say what I need to say.
Okay. I don't know if either of you were big Ants on a Log fans. Don't have to give away your answer if that is your answer, but yeah, that's favorite childhood snack. Kelsey, you won last week, correct?
I did, yes.
All right. Would you like to go first, or would you like to defer?
I will go. I'm ready.
All right. She's ready. Here we go. When you're ready.
Nothing will compare to coming home after school, throwing your backpack on the floor, reaching into the cabinet, grabbing some Tostitos, going into the fridge, grabbing a mound of cheese, and making your own nachos in the microwave. Like, I want it so badly right now, and it was like the best thing my sister and I would dive into, and it was such an easy snack, so cheap, and honestly, kind of timeless. I would do that right now if I had the capability. So, homemade nachos without question.
You and I lived very similar childhood lives. That's but I will say that it was only not consistently nachos for me because we would have had to had tacos earlier that week, and there had to be some leftover taco meat to like make it a thing. You know, I couldn't just do chips and cheese. My parents would not allow something like that.
That's fair. That's fair. I incorporate the meals. It's a Midwest afternoon snack.
Absolutely, like hot summer day coming home, just like, hey, Mom, failed my math test, but gonna go dig into these nachos real quick. So, yeah, that's good.
Unless you're in the movie Napoleon Dynamite and you call it a quesadilla.
Also true. Also,
all right, Scott, you ready?
Yeah, let's do it.
Go ahead.
So at school, hands down, like between the ages of really early elementary until I was 9, I was a big peanut butter jelly and Pringles guy. So like I loved to make peanut butter and jelly and put the chips inside the sandwich for that little bit of crunch effect. But post-school, you can never beat like a Gala apple and just some crunchy peanut butter, man. Like you just like, you get a little bit of the health in it, you get a little bit of the protein in it, but like you talk about something that just reinvigorated my afternoon. Just a nice sliced, Mom's got to slice it, nice sliced red apple and some peanut butter.
You had a much healthier lifestyle as a kid than I did, I'll tell you that.
If you saw some elementary school pics, wouldn't show, so...
Well-rounded meals there at the Stewart household.
Hey, mom did us right for sure. Then I did her wrong by eating about 4 portions of the healthy food she made for us. But yeah,
my close second was having like a big glass of milk and eating a whole line of Oreos.
Oh, love that. And we were a popcorn household, so I would have said popcorn too. But that's too timeless for me. I do that.
Wow, I think I've painted myself into a corner here. This is a tough one.
We love the food ones, though, Matt. So I got to shout you out for that.
Yeah. You know what? You can't go wrong either way. I will say that. You both have very strong selections. But I got to go cheese when all else is equal.
Dude, I'm saying, that's when she said that, it didn't even pop in my head that, like, that would have been a possibility. And she said it, and I was like, I'm a goner, you know? That was fantastic, but the nachos move is like that's a slick Midwest move. All things
being equal, always go cheese. Kelsey
Always
go
cheese.
Love that.
Appreciate the dub, Calvo.
Here to help any way I can. Now I gotta go eat some cheese.
Yeah, be right back.
Nacho cheese. Cheese really just always for the win. All right, guys. Week 12 is underway here. Catch all of it on ESPN Plus this week in SiriusXM. For those limited games, we will catch you guys next week.